Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License Flight Number 20 with service to The Good Place. We ask that you please fasten your headphones at this time, secure your podcasting device, and remember that if you are sitting in the middle seat, you do in fact get the right to the armrest. And if the aisle or window seat take your armrest, they most likely will be going to the bad place.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Jeff Kurbis, joined by my fellow co-hosts, Rich Inman and Max Singer. How you boys doing today?
Good. Like a flight. That was quite a journey. I like that.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, indeed.
Yeah.
Well,
first episode of 2023.
Ooh. Is that an omen? Is that an omen I hear? Well, thank you guys for joining. Thanks all of our listeners for joining. We thought we would kick off the new year with The Good Place. Super excited to talk about this. Debuted in 2016. But before we dive into everything, Max, do you mind letting the folks know what this podcast is all about?
Yeah, if it's been a while, and it has, welcome to TV Pilot's License, where we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of famous or infamous TV shows from throughout the years. We figure out how these shows came to be, if they're successful pilots and make us want to watch more, and if we think they can be made today. We've got a whole bank of episodes from last year on wherever you get your podcasts. Just go look up podcasts. Just search the word podcast right now, and you'll find us.
Yeah, Google Podcast.
Just Google the word podcast.
Yeah, we somehow ranked number one for just the term podcast. How weird.
It helps when one of your co-hosts works in SEO. What can I say? But yeah, go check us out, subscribe, rate us, leave a review, and if it's your first time flying, welcome aboard.
And Rich, to kick off 2023, what's your question of the week?
Well, one of my favorite parts of coming back to school, if there had to be a remotely good part of coming back to school, is everyone not learning immediately and the teacher sitting everyone down saying, hey, where did everyone go on their vacation? And I would love to know, as the question of the week, where do we go when we die?
Wow, that's a big one. That might be the biggest question you've had.
Look, we did like an hour and a half on the X-Files pilot. We can talk about this ad nauseum if we want. dive deep, do whatever you got to do.
Max, while I contemplate, what are your thoughts on this gigantic subject?
Yeah, throw Max under the bus.
As a wise man, or maybe it was a children's nursery rhyme, said, there's a hole in the log in the bog in the bottom of the sea.
Oh, you want an Osama bin Laden burial?
Oh my god.
No, I mean, look, if I said I've never thought about this, I'm lying. Where do we go when we die? I think we have a nice, peaceful transition, and then our spirit journey begins anew with round 2, Life on Earth Boogaloo.
Where you have to live a good life so you can save the rec center.
Oh, ain't that the truth? I would say, I'm in the same plane as Max, literally, in the idea that
Whoa.
Plain puns, they're still gonna happen. As far as that goes, though, I think that, there's gotta be some place, at least, for my sanity, I have to believe there's something else out there. And if it happens to be anything like what The Good Place has written out, be a spoiler, I've watched more than the pilot, I'd be a pretty happy guy.
Also,
Nice.
If you're listening to this at home and you want to sound off and tell us why we're wrong, the comments are open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know where you go when you die.
Yeah. Rich, what about you?
That would be the weirdest voicemail we've ever gotten. I like to think back on like a rabbinical answer to this, basically, and just a small child asks the rabbi where we go when we die, and the rabbi replies, "Who are you to ask such a question? Why would you do that?" But also, I think it's hubristic for human beings to think that they go somewhere special when they die, when no other creature potentially goes somewhere when they die. And
I have it on good authority that all dogs go to heaven.
Yeah, no, that's very
true.
true. And I've heard medium people go to Cincinnati. Well, Rich, thank you so much for that very thought-provoking...
I think we knocked that out in like a minute.
Very thought-provoking question. So,
yeah, what scholars have tried to do for a millennia, we did in about 90 seconds. Great job, everyone.
Yo, suck it, Immanuel Kant.
Oh my god. Well, for those who are still unsure what we're going to be talking about this week, we're going to be talking about The Good Place. If you want to watch the pilot before you listen to us or watch us on YouTube, you can find it on Netflix, and you can also find it on Apple TV. But let's talk a little bit about a synopsis. 4 people and their otherworldly frenemy struggle in the afterlife to define what it means to be good. Simple and sweet, but Max, tell me how this came to be.
Totally. So we are going to be talking about the Good Places pilot episode, Everything is Fine, which originally aired on NBC September 19th, 2016. And this show is the brainchild of a gentleman named Mike Schur, who it blew my mind to find out. And like, I knew he's been in the game for a long time, but Mike Schur has been working professionally for 25 years now.
Holy
and
shit.
it's just like, it's crazy to think how young some of these
Since
guys
before I was born?
Damn it, Rich. So
this is my new bit. I'm gonna make everyone think that I'm 19 years old.
our favorite Gen Z TV podcaster, Rich Edmond.
Hey, dead ass, you know.
Oh my god, no.
So Mike
TikTok.
Schur has only worked in comedy. He graduated from Harvard in 1997, where he was president of the National Lampoon, and in 1998, he was hired as a writer by Saturday Night Live. He's a writer there for a few years and becomes the producer of Weekend Update starting in 2001. Again, talking about things that blow my mind, like these timelines shouldn't overlap. The head writer when Schur got hired at SNL was Adam McKay, and I just feel like these things don't align. I don't think of them as being of like the same group that came up together. And then I find out that Adam McKay got hired in 1995 at SNL, and a year later he's promoted to head writer at 27 years old.
Oh my god, that makes me so sad.
Damn, that must have been a hell of a first year.
So moving on though, so Schur works at SNL until 2004 when he leaves, and he goes to work for Greg Daniels, another SNL alum, as well as The Simpsons and King of the Hill, to write and produce on Daniels' new show, an adaptation of the British series The Office for NBC. So Schur writes, produces, occasionally makes guest appearances as Dwight's brother Mose, and then with Daniels, they conceive of what's originally a spin-off, but then becomes its own independent series, a sitcom called Parks and Recreation. Schur also co-creates Brooklyn Nine-Nine with Dan Gore, and while this is happening, also writes for a whole bunch of baseball blogs under the pseudonym Ken Tremendous. So Schur goes solo and sells a pitch to NBC for this show, The Good Place. It gets picked up right away to series order. When researching this, my favorite little tidbit I found out is that they would do hoaxes and press releases with character descriptions. So to all of the like PR and like tabloids and stuff in town, they would describe PR for Janet as being a violin salesperson with a checkered past.
That's amazing.
Which was confirmed as being a prank by writer Megan Amram. And then something else I found pretty cool about just the conception of this show is he's not credited in any way. You're not going to find his name listed or officially associated with this show. But one of the big helping hands in the development of this series is actually Damon Lindelof of Lost, The Leftovers, and Watchmen. Schur basically took meetings with him early in the process and was like, how do I build twists? How do I build suspense? How do I build cliffhangers? And so he would pitch him all these ideas that he had and was like, is this a thing, basically? They said they would meet up for lunch and play a game, is this a thing? And basically help Schur figure out how to write the cliffhangers that The Good Place becomes so well known for in time. But we're only going to talk about one cliffhanger today, and that's the one in our pilot episode.
Wow. I mean, that it is like, you can tell from the show, it is a wild departure from the extremely, like, I would say mainstream workplace comedies of The Office and Parks and Rec and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. There is nothing ethereal about any of those, and to just go from those to, all right, we're gonna build an entire afterlife full of like ethical quandaries and stuff like that, and we're just going to have that be the entire basis of the show. Incredibly huge leap. So that actually makes a lot of sense that he was reaching out to one of the creators of Lost.
Yeah, like the thing that is amazing but also upsets me about Michael Schur's past is like most people would just be happy with one of those line items, right? Like most people would be like, oh, cool, I wrote on SNL, hell yeah, Lifetime Achievement Award. No, SNL, The Office, Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, baseball writing. Like those, all of those are equal
and
things.
He's 47. He's 47. He's just getting started. Norman Lear's 100 and he's still producing shows.
I think we found the new president of NBC.
You guys, I need everyone to contribute to this GoFundMe so we can keep Norman Lear's heart going.
President of NBC, welcome back.
Yeah, Happy New Year, President of NBC.
How was your Christmas and New Year's?
Happy New Year, you guys. First of all, you guys should know that I only celebrate Hanukkah, and it's just so I can appease everyone in Hollywood. And
well, one, President of NBC, thank you for making The Good Place possible. But let's take a little bit of a dive into The Good Place. So we open on Eleanor's eyes. That is not me being poetic. It is literally we open on Eleanor opening her eyes and reading a sign saying, "Welcome, everything is fine." Eleanor being played by Kristen Bell, and she is greeted by a tall, white-haired gentleman named Michael, played by Ted Danson. This brings my instant first question up. Who would you like to be greeted by when you go to The Good Place?
Ooh.
Can I just say Ted Danson?
Yeah, no, Ted Danson's actually my answer, so we're on the same page, Max.
2 Chainz. I'm picking 2 Chainz. I feel like that's how could you possibly have any fear in your heart when you see that man?
Do you guys ever watch that Vice show he does, Most Expensivest, 2 Chainz?
No, but I think I have my new thing to watch.
He just like reviews really expensive stuff. Like he goes to like a Vegas hotel and learns about like $40,000 cocktails, or he learns about $100,000 bed sheets, whatever. It's like I want to see him do this in heaven, where it's like, yo, like this harp is made of pure magical gold.
I think I've seen that, and it was him drinking $100,000 bottle of water with the water sommelier.
How much money does Vice have?
There's one where he goes to like a retirement home in Miami, and it's like the most expensive retirement community in America, and it's just like him hanging out with senior citizens. It's delightful.
That sounds wonderful. So let's talk about what Michael actually does. I thought this was such a clever thing of setting up like the Eleanor is the audience and the audience is Eleanor, and really a exposition vomit of what exactly is happening and what is happening to Eleanor. We get to experience the idea of, hey, you're in the good place. You don't remember anything. I love this touch because you died an embarrassing death and we erase those.
Yeah, we erase traumatic or embarrassing deaths.
Yeah, I was thinking like to myself, what would be, because that, one, yes, this is for network television, so we can't do something that's too graphic. But like, also, what would be more embarrassing than dying after purchasing Lonely Girl's margarita mix and getting hit by a bus? Or it was a shopping cart and a bus that had a boner pill on the side of the bus. Yeah, engorgulate.
Get it right.
Look. I want to take a minute to just say that, hey, if you got hit by a bus that had an extremely embarrassing ad on the side of it, it's not your fault. I'm so sorry. You're not a bad person. look, I don't think you wanted to see Shen Yun, but no, oh, that's a reference that no one else here gets.
No, I thought you were gonna keep going with it.
I was. I looked at both of your eyes and saw nothing.
Oh my god. I have been meaning to see Shen Yun. I've been seeing ads for it for 20 years. But like during this entire process, I think that they did such a good job of writing like what would be the questions when you go to the concept of heaven, right? Like, how did I get here? Who was right? Which I thought was just like such a clever little bit of the concept of Doug Forsett and him being like a celebrity in the afterlife as a whole. Like, what were some of the things that you guys enjoyed about this opening scene?
God, I'm gonna say this a bunch throughout this episode, but I love the specificity in the writing in this show.
Oh, yeah.
I love that it's not just margaritas, it's not just tequila. It's such a specific brand Lonely Girl margarita mix. I love that every religion was exactly 5%. I love the whole story about Doug Forsett taking shrooms and getting 92% of the afterlife correct. There's so many more moments later in this that as they come up, I'll just be like, specifics. But yeah, it's just so much fun to listen to, and Ted Danson just like bodies these opening chunks of text.
It is one long list game, which had to have been an absolute joy to be a writer on. I mean, it's just spitballing ideas. It's throwing
what
out...
I would not give to just see photos of the whiteboard.
I know. I do remember Megan Amram posting something on Twitter of all of the different food-based puns that she had to write for all of the restaurants that existed in The Good Place.
She would post lists of all of the restaurant ideas that were pitched in the writer's room.
Yeah, I could do that all day. It's so fun. That sounds like an absolutely amazing room to write in.
Well, good news is Mike Schur has like 50 more years of shows in him, apparently.
Mike, hit me up.
Like
I heard you like lists.
That was one of the things that I was so impressed by this is like when you look at the writing for this show, it is so much of like, it's very 360, right? It's like a very full figure. Every scene is fully developed. There's not like a missing joke. Like even the first scene ending with like, did I have a purse? No, I'm dead. Like I was just like, that's what a great way to cap off a scene in like what could be a throwaway joke, but because Kristen Bell is, I'm going to say this throughout just like Max, but Kristen Bell kills every single scene in this episode. And like that is amongst a bunch of amazing actors that we will give them all their comeuppance. But like this is one of those things. Did I say it right or did I say it wrong? Who knows?
I just don't know if that's the word
I don't think it's the right word.
Who knows?
I think we're going to give them all their applause, maybe?
All
their adulation? I don't know. Yes, okay.
Yeah, there we go. That works.
I felt like you were threatening Eddie
but also,
or something.
But also Kermuppin sounds like something that, like, it's a vengeance story about Kermit the Frog.
Hell yeah. I'm in. I'll fund that. But after this first scene, like, it's such a nice job of, like, it's not surprising, Max, when you say that, like, Michael Schur had to go and have meetings about, like, setting up twists, right? Because this show eases the audience into the concept of The Good Place. If this show was just about The Good Place, it would be a very boring show. Because within 5 minutes, we would be like, oh, here we are, and, like, everything is magical and everything is great. But we start off the show with, we're in The Good Place. I loved all the different names of the frozen yogurt places, right? Like, my favorite was GPBY, Good Place, Best Yogurt. I was like, my TCBY folks love that. But then, like, even the orientation video that they had was just so well done. Like, it took that little bit of workplace comedy that, like, Michael Schur was so used to and familiar with, and was just like, hey, we can throw this in for, like, a couple minutes just to get something going here. Like,
it's very tech startup-y. I love the thought of Silicon Valley creeping into the afterlife.
I will say on the subject of frozen yogurt parlors with pun names, living in Los Angeles, those are just like real places. Like there's Yoga Ert, which is like the yoga / frozen yogurt place. There's Humphrey Yogurt in the valley out here.
Oh my
like,
god.
We just have pun frozen yogurt places. This may be the good place. I may have died when I came to LA.
Oh God, Max, how can you tell me you're more LA without saying that LA is like heaven? There was like, but I think that just everything, the idea of like the video being sponsored by otters holding hands, right? Like just these small little throwaway jokes that are so great and like overacted, but like they're perfect.
I love like weaponized cutesiness for humor. It is, oh man, such good fodder, and they really dig into that so much throughout the course of the show. I can't say enough about it.
And they do such a good job of like setting up what we should be expecting next, right? Because like during this orientation video, we find out, hey, you get to meet your soulmate. And we do have the great like, hey, this is your house. It's an embodiment of your personality. And like my wife and I disagreed. I actually thought that Kristen Bell's or Eleanor's house was cute. At least on the exterior. The interior we can have some conversations about. But like then right
it was
next
super
to
cute
it,
on the inside too.
Yeah, right next to it is this, I don't even want to call it a mega mansion. It is a, an entire city that is encompassed within a home. And just like meeting Chidi being this, the William Jackson Harper who plays Chidi is so good in this role. They don't give him like a ton to work with, right? They're just like, hey, you're the embodiment, of like good. Like you're just good and you're curious and like go do that. And here are your lines and you're working off of Kristen Bell. Good luck. And like somehow I'm just enthralled by everything that he's doing. And he's saying, like, I don't think he has a line that's bigger than maybe 10 words, but every time I'm like, oh, he's got me. Like, let's fucking go.
So something super important about this show as a whole is, I mean, let's go over some of like the rules of the Good Place, if people are unfamiliar with it, because it really sets up the exposition for like what we're allowed to do, like the confinement of the world that we're in. One that was like very cool immediately when you meet Chidi, he is saying that he's speaking perfect French, and the Good Place automatically translates that to English for you. You can't curse. That's another thing that comes up as a pretty fun comedic element for the entire show. Is there anything else that you guys thought of that was pretty important? I don't know who has watched more than just the pilot episode. Have we all watched a significant amount more of the show?
I have watched every episode of the show.
I've watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. As far as rules that are sticking out to me right now that are revealed just in the pilot, I think you covered like the two large ones. If that makes sense.
You get your own soulmate too.
Yeah.
Soulmate's there.
Yeah. No, I think that is without diving too much into the lore of the show. I think that like, and they did a great job of Chidi being the reveal of some of those rules, right? And like some of the ways that these things, like some of the ways that the world works. But we get our first big reveal. But before I talk about the reveal, was there anything else that you guys like had thoughts of on like just getting to this point as a whole and how the pilot is feeling?
Yeah, you get positive 1.04 points for every sandwich you eat towards your Good Place score. So I think I'm going to heaven when all said and done in this life.
I'll get there.
I love this first act as a pilot. Like if these are your first 10 pages of script, you establish this world. You get points of view of a couple of main characters. You get amazing detail, great jokes. You get a lot of exposition in a way that doesn't feel overly clunky or too in your face. This is just such a great first act of writing that caps off with the reveal that ends Act 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Ted Danson as basically an unsure host of The Good Place, where he can go ahead and explain everything in something that's so calm and in Ted Danson's voice, and then to immediately have that feeling of like, I'm pretty new at this though, and for him to be at 250 years of working in this
as an apprentice.
Place.
Yeah.
Yes.
The concept of that. I don't want anyone to complain about being an intern for over a year anymore after hearing Ted Danson apprentice for that long.
We are a famously anti-free labor podcast.
Nope, we're pro intern for college credit. But let's talk about the first big reveal, right? The first big reveal is Eleanor just very blatantly says to Chidi, after getting him to promise, like basically luring him into a trap of like, hey, I'm not supposed to be here. The memories that you're seeing, those aren't my memories. I'm not a lawyer. This was a big old mistake. And then I feel like this was the first instance of this is really what this pilot's about. Right? Like, Max, you said it perfectly. Like, the first 10 pages, we built this gigantic world. You're bought in. But as soon as Kristen Bell says, I'm not supposed to be here, that's the moment where it's like, oh, shit, this is what I'm watching.
And what's so fun is that these are all tropes that we've seen before in shows. It starts off with, the way that we proceed through your standard workplace comedy with welcome to your first day, introduction, orientation. This is how the company works. It's a case of mistaken identity. There is another person named Eleanor Shellstrop who Kristen Bell's character has taken the place of in The Good Place by a mistake. It's the same name, but different memories. Somehow there's been a mix-up. We've seen all these beats play out before. And so I think it's cool how like Mike Schur and this writing team combines these things to put it into a lens that feels fresh despite it, easily being overplayed stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's so funny because like after having all this world building, one of the things that I loved that the writing team did is they immediately like discredited Eleanor as a human being, right? Like they immediately tore down any semblance of her being like somewhat of a good person with just a small series of montages that were just like perfect, right? Like just the environment, like the environmentalist who was there and her not even having the dignity of throwing her, I think it was a can in the trash and then telling it to suck it, lover, like nature boy or something of that matter. Like it was just so well done, and having the Chidi character act opposite of her in this terrified manner of being like, well, I deserve to be here. What the hell? Why are you here? Was just, it was very like refreshing. I think that's the word that I want to use in this instance.
And it's a little bit of a gamble too, because you have to like your protagonist. So to pile on Eleanor but still have her seem so likable it's really good character development. And I think it also is a role that, like, if Kristen Bell doesn't like amplify it and play it the way she does, could easily make it seem like, oh, like just we done goofed. It's a fish out of water, but this person's like actually a piece of shirt, and instead you get this really person you want to root for, even though they're awful.
Yeah, they did not make a lot of choices in the living world. But I mean, that is like, as you said, you want a protagonist that is likable, that is someone you want to root for. And I think what they're trying to build here is, okay, she doesn't belong here. She knows she doesn't belong here. But is she going to say something about it? Who is she going to... How is she going to correct it?
Her explanation of like her life story. It's like, I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and then I moved to Tempe, Arizona, and then I moved back to Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah.
But also, okay, so here's one little thing that I caught on this part when she was explaining, these are not my memories and everything. Obviously, major screw up on the behalf of Mike. That was Ted Danson's character's name?
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, Michael. But they do know how she died. And that death, I think, is legitimately her death. So I don't know. That's where I was going to start to question. I mean, I've watched a decent amount more of the show as well. I haven't watched the whole thing, but that immediately was, okay, how do you know
Was that your
that you
hint?
screw up the
Yeah.
rest of your life? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they did also such a good job of like through this process we learn more about the Good Place, right? We learn about Janet, played by Darcy Carden, who is Darcy is amazing. Like I could make a podcast just about Darcy Carden.
Yeah, the violin salesperson with the checkered past.
Yes.
Yeah.
Darcy Carden plays Janet, who's basically like the living embodiment of what we all like. Universe, like omnipotent Siri is what Janet is, and like this amazing, like they nailed it with like the voice and like how she's dressed, like in this almost like sterile manner, and like everything about it is perfect. You can't see what the bad place is like, but you can hear exactly what is happening there right now, like, and just playing it so emotionless was just she absolutely dominating it.
Truly unbelievable, like wild card joke fodder in this character. There is almost nothing about this pilot hinges on Janet, but it is such a beautiful addition for jokes. It's kind of how I feel about the Colin Robinson character from What We Do in the Shadows. He is there not as a consequential character. He really does not have a major connection to the other vampires in the house for What We Do in the Shadows, but having the premise of being an energy vampire, someone who feeds off the energy of people around them instead of actual blood, it's so modern, it's so stupid, it's so incredibly funny, and I think Janet's just the perfect embodiment of this. She gets a lot of important like first person episodes down the line, which I think they're all super fun. I just love this character as a whole. But yeah, I mean, talk about just throwing in someone, just, take some big swings at it in the writer's room.
Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead, Max.
I'll say there's so many people in this cast who make just absolute meals out of tiny moments. With Darcy, for me, it's when she cocks her head back for them to listen to The Bad Place, and it's just like her staring up, mouth agape, and it's like the flick of her head, the posture she takes on. It's a nothing moment, but she absolutely turns it into something. It's the same thing that time and time again Ted Danson does, Kristen Bell does, William Jackson Harper does really, really nice. There's even tiny little looks and glances that Manny Jacinto, who we'll talk about
do
momentarily, do. And everyone here just takes advantage of every moment of screen time that they get, and they do it really, really well.
Yeah, I would say there is not a bad performance by anyone who is on the main card for this show by any means, right? Like, and we can't say that about every pilot that we have watched.
I don't know what you're talking about. That was very clearly expressed in Father of the Bride.
But we talked a little bit about it. We meet two more characters while Chidi and Eleanor are contemplating what to do about Eleanor. We meet Tahani Al-Jamil, and I forget what let me find it. And then we also meet Jian Yu. The
Buddhist monk.
This was it was great, right? Because this is where I think, Rich, you said we need Rich and Max, you both said we needed a relatable character in a pilot so we can continue on with the pilot. This is where I feel like we all relate with Eleanor the most, about there just being that person who is the worst, but somehow everyone adores for some reason whatsoever.
The person I related to the most was when Chidi said that I'm in a perfect utopia and I have a stomach ache. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Almost heaven, Los Feliz.
IBS now.
But they use I think they're both, like, even though we don't get that much of either of these characters, they're used once again as plot devices, right? Helping to push forward the idea of, like, oh, I'm hosting a welcome party for everyone that is new. And at said welcome party, we get to meet all of these amazing people. Like the guy who gave up both of his kidneys
to a stranger.
To a stranger who he had just met on the bus, which was just like, of those jokes, that was my favorite one by far, of like just the quality of people that Eleanor was not meeting at that level.
To give a little bit of background there. Wait, what's that?
Oh, no, go ahead.
To give a little bit of background, so Eleanor goes through a party that Tahani is throwing at at her giant mansion house, and is trying to find out if anyone else there is there by accident, like her. So that's what we're referring to in this particular scene.
Eleanor at one point says, "Let me get more of them shrampies," related to a.
You forgot
the
hard A in that shramp.
Negative 2,000 points from The Good Place.
Yeah, if you're with someone at a party and they say, "Let me get more of them shrampies,"
I'm cutting them off.
I mean, okay, so to be to play devil's advocate for 1 second, which I think is appropriate on this show, we have all been to weddings where there's not enough past apps at the wedding, and you have to stock out the person who has the good past apps, right? Because sometimes
the good plates.
Yeah, the good plates.
God damn it.
But I sort of, if I was Eleanor and I was like, oh geez, did you see the size of those shrimp? They were small lobsters. I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna grab at least 2 or 3. Now, would I take home a bunch of them in my bra?
Sure.
Probably not. They'd be in my pockets. But I don't know. Like, it was just such this great, like, oh, another moment where you're like, oh, Eleanor might be trash. And that's okay, because all of us are a little bit trashy.
But that leads in to my favorite moment of this entire pilot.
Oh.
Which is, we get back from the party, drunk Eleanor is being put to bed by Chidi.
Oh, no.
And she looks up and says, no, it's not the shrimp in the bra part. She looks up and says, "Am I a good person? Does anybody care that I died?" And that to me is like the heart and the morality of this pilot. That to me is the line of dialogue. We talk about you need your protagonist to be likable. This is the moment that really defines Eleanor as having those different levels. There's these different facets to this character. And it's the line of dialogue that gets me so on board with this protagonist and the journey that we're going to follow them over the course of many episodes to come.
I thought you were going to say it was the clown noise.
Yeah, I was going to say, and then you cut that tension with a knife with the clown coming down.
It truly is. It's like you have like the moral heart of this show revealed to you. You have the big question, and you basically make a fart sound over it.
And then honk honk clown time.
We can't get too serious here. But after a good, I don't know if they have nights in The Good Place, but we'll call it an sleep. We wake up to a nightmare hellscape, right? Like, everyone is wearing Michigan chevron colors because the mistaken identity of Eleanor went to Michigan for law. There are gigantic ladybugs, forks that are flying down from the ground, shrimp, giant frogs, nasal pro, and giraffes, just to name a few of these things.
All scored to Ariana Grande.
Yeah, which was great. I did love, like, just the amount of detail that, like, was put into those little pieces of the script to then bring it back, and, like, because no one would be like, oh yeah, an Ariana Grande mention, that's foreshadowing. It's just like, I don't know, it was just such a great little, like, bit of writing for sure.
This show utilizes the little bits of CGI that it does for a network comedy really effectively. I feel like they could have made it a huge crutch, but it's like the way they just like trickled in with like the CGI of the mansion or utilizing it for this scene. It also separates it from an entire generation of the docu-style comedies and the multicams. Like it really feels like this is a show of the modern era and the way they incorporate those effects.
Yeah, it's something entirely different, for sure. And like, yeah, it all of this, like all of this chaos, all of us seeing some of the characters we've met along the way, dealing with this chaos as a whole. I think whoever was responsible for the costume design of all the different versions of the chevron, A plus, because they made a suit, they made a dress, they made like a button up shirt with a pair of pants and a chevron belt. Like it was great. But we come to the point where Eleanor realizes, and Sheedy is very aware that something has to be done because Eleanor is not supposed to be here. We get my favorite joke of the show, which is Eleanor states that there should be a medium place. It shouldn't just be for one of every million people gets to go to the good place. The medium place should be Cincinnati. I don't know what it is about Cincinnati, but boy, do people like to pick on it. And
it's
I
mid,
will
baby.
say it is fine.
Yeah, see? That is why it gets picked on. That's why.
I have a special place in my heart for Cincinnati. But we come to the end of this pilot with an agreement. Eleanor's going to be a ethical guinea pig of trying to become a better person. There is no after credit scene. There's no extra little bit of detail that we're missing. The credits just rolled as we are going through fairly important dialogue.
That's a Mike Schur signature though. Like every single one of his shows has that where the credits roll over the last scene. Like he knows like I've got 21-ish minutes of airtime, like not factoring commercials, and I'm going to make the most of this network half hour. Those scenes run all the way into those final producer tags.
I feel like that is definitely a part of I mean, it has to be due to his insane experience working with NBC at this point. He knows precisely how long, quote unquote, 30 minutes is, and that's 20 minutes and 21 minutes and 3 seconds or whatever.
Scenes.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
There's like a major cliffhanger and like the action that's going to propel the next episode happening here. There's in other shows of his like major reveals and twists that come in these credit scenes. Like he's going to keep you watching all the way until it says like frenulum and NBC at the very end or whatever else.
Almost every advancement of the Jim and Pam will they won't they thing takes place in that exact moment. So I don't know if that was an original Greg Daniels thing or if it's all Mike Schur on that one. But yeah, I mean it is an extremely short pilot. It is 21 minutes hard and you're out.
Yeah.
And that's a ton of extremely complicated concepts to cover in 21 minutes and also set up a pretty big cliffhanger. I don't know. I just think he does such an incredible job with the brevity of this.
So that's the pilot, right? As we just like, and it ends. What were some of the things that we didn't talk about that you loved?
Oh boy. I mean, it's all the jokes. I love there's little I mean, one of my favorite things about The Simpsons is that even with the script in place, there's always sight gags that are going on outside of it. And just the fact that you can throw in bonus jokes outside of a script is it just really makes a complete picture for me. And it scratched an itch of having, because I believe this is several years removed from 30 Rock at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It really scratched the itch of, okay, they're going to throw in bonus absurd jokes for me. And I just appreciate it significantly. I just like, it set up so much of a great feeling for the next future episodes of like, what am I going to see? What am I going to laugh at? What's going to be the point and laugh moment?
Yeah, piggybacking off that, nothing in this is a throwaway. Every single line is specific for a reason. There are jokes that you can watch this a million times and not see. Like, there's so many, like when they're showing the two scenes of like how you gain and lose points, there's so many jokes flying at you there in so many font sizes. There's probably things that no one has ever found that are in tiny fonts way in the background of that shot, that are the writer's favorite things, or like third favorite because they weren't totally in the foreground. The other thing that I just love is how well this pilot moves and how clear this 3-act structure is. I can't say this is one that I advise anyone trying to copy and replicate for reference,
Yeah,
because
please
there's
don't.
so much happening here. And you do need CGI to pull off some of it. But it establishes wild ground rules and so much plot and so much like character development in 21 minutes in a really great way.
Now I want nothing more than to watch like a kid with a video recorder try to do their version of The Good Place and show it for their parents. That would be amazing.
Timmy, is this why there's no shrimp left in the freezer?
Shrimpies!
Yeah, I will just say, like, this is a show that you can't just listen to, if that makes sense, because you lose out on so much that is happening. This has been expertly put together. We've been talking about how Michael Schur is going to be working till, all of us are dead. He's going to keep on working. They're going to Disney Frozen him. And
I'm only 19, so it's going to be a while for him.
But like, it almost feels like this is a master thesis, right? And like, this is what the 20 minutes that you have for a network sitcom is supposed to be, as far as making sure everything is in place and you have the intention of the audience for every single second that you get with them.
Or just what you could do with the form, like that anything is possible in this medium.
Speaking on that too, Jeff, I haven't looked up all of the other viewership numbers for this, but I know Ted Danson is a giant draw. This got over 8 million viewers for the pilot, which I think might be our most popular pilot so far.
It's close. I'll tell
it's
you
close.
that. It is close. But
is it Entourage?
No, I believe our most popular pilot, I have to look back, had like 12 million people.
Oh my God.
It. But I
feel like Housewives was pretty high.
Yeah, Housewives was
like
high too.
X-Files was pretty high.
Yeah, there were a couple that were like up there. And I think actually this one was beat out by Modern Family.
Wow.
Which is just something to speak to Modern Family as a whole. I did want to say one other thing that I really did love about this. I thought this pilot was flawlessly directed, and credit to Drew Goddard, who I am super familiar with. He has like a little bit of a history with the concept of supernatural and evil and stuff. I know him from Cabin in the Woods, which is one of my favorite movies.
Oh,
and
such a great movie.
Like, he helped write that, he directed it, like, it's such a good movie, and you could see like the concept of a director who works with a twist, just like in their element. So like, good on you, Drew Goddard. I know you don't direct much, but please do more.
Friend of the pod.
Yeah, friend of the pod for sure. What were some of the things that were wait a minute moments for you in this pilot?
Manny Jacinto only speaks slightly less in this than he did in Top Gun Maverick.
He's a man of few lines. I like that about him.
He does get an amazing look to camera during the storm, but
the Charlie Chaplin of our time.
Man, he got done dirty in Top Gun Maverick. I was so amped when I saw he was going to be in that, and he's like maybe in the football scene. I don't know.
He doesn't even get a verse of. Oh my God, what's the song that he plays on the piano?
Great Balls of Fire.
Great Balls of Fire. There we go.
I will say that the this is me nitpicking. There were a lot of frogs in this pilot, more than I thought I needed. Not that I have a problem with frogs, but there were a lot of close-up shots of frogs on flowers, and I feel like we need to give our listeners what they want, and they want to hear our wait a minute moments. So that caused me a slight amount of pause.
You were concerned about how many frogs?
Too many frogs.
What is going on?
We need those frogs in swamps, not on pilots.
Oh, why?
Well, other than
don't
obviously
make him unpack this on the pod. He's traumatized.
Yeah,
Let
there
him
are
deal with this in a proper setting.
many frogs. Too many cooks, too many frogs.
Do you have a frog fear? Do you have a fear of frogs?
No, I'm fine with frogs, but I just thought in this show there were too many frogs, and I'm going to leave it at that. If I watch episode number 2 and there aren't nearly as many frogs in it, I'm going to be a mix of upset and relieved at the same damn time.
I think a new segment in this show is going to be like Jeff Kervis's Frogometer. Like, how many frogs were in this pilot?
Guys, it's the president of NBC. We absolutely love the show, but you're bankrupting us with the frogs. Can you please cut it out?
Too many frogs. Not enough CGI, too many frogs.
Our frog budget's out of control.
Were there any other wait a minute moments for either of you? Otherwise, we do have an in-flight question today.
I thought there needed to be more frogs.
I'm not going to top frogs. We need to move on.
So, for our first in-flight question of 2023, I got shot a DM and it said, if you had to guess who would be the most surprising person to be in the bad place, who would it be?
Ooh, I already know. I actually have on good authority 2 people who are definitely in the bad place.
Go for it.
And you would never think that. Number 1 is Gandhi. A lot of sexual assault of young women. And then Mother Teresa, who forcibly kept people in horrible health to be martyrs for her. So, both of those people, fuck them.
Max, what about you? Do you have any...
Oh, boy.
Who would be someone that would surprise the audience that you think would be in the bad place?
Winnie the Pooh.
Is it the pants?
Do you want to elaborate, or is it it's the forced nudity?
It's the nudity. He's definitely stolen some of that honey over the years, which sent him straight to hell.
Oh God. Oh God. I will say it is whoever at Disney decided to purchase the rights to Star Wars, because you could have just left it alone. And that
Didn't you just talk about how great the new
I
Star
did,
Wars show
but
is?
There were a few movies that didn't need to be made. We could have just let it well enough alone.
Sure.
Hey, you red bastard!
Oh my God!
Surprisingly, president of NBC in the good place.
So, look, here's the deal, USOB. You retract that statement, or you know what I'm gonna do? I say every time, I'm gonna fucking cut you. Yeah, I don't have to say fork it either. I can get away with it. I can say fuck it on this all I want.
You know, Mickey, for a company founded by a vehement anti-Semite, you seem to threaten with legal action quite a bit.
Well, thank you for that in-flight question. We'll talk a little bit more about how you can send those in to us. And usually we give a little bit of notice. This week, a little bit different. But let's talk about the legacy of this show. There were 4 seasons of this show. Famously, Michael Schur said he only wanted there to be 4 seasons of this show. And it lasted 53 episodes. The highest rated season was season 2. And it averaged 5.78 million viewers. Now, to give you an idea, the show itself never went past the number 77 on top-ranked shows any year it was on. Which I found super surprising, because I think this is a really well-loved show, but I think it also caught on more because of streaming rather than watching and being sit-down television. Here's another surprising fact. 81 nominations, 14 wins,
Nice.
never won a Primetime Emmy Award.
Really?
Yeah, never
Even
won
for writing?
one.
Like, the acting is terrific.
For writing, Ted
wow.
Danson got nominations for Emmys, as well as Kristen Bell, Maya Rudolph, William Jackson Harper, Darcy Carden. Michael Schur got nominated for Outstanding Writing a bunch of times, but it just never happened. Really, like, the most notable award that it won was the American Film Institute for Television Program of the Year in 2017. And that's like, it's feels like a crime almost.
This is a show that I think part of its legacy is that it just really, it flew under the radar. I think that it got a fan base in its later seasons via streaming. I think it caught on late. It felt like one of those shows that, at least thinking back on watching season 1, was like very word of mouthy, like people trying to tell each other, oh, you got to check this thing out. It's really fun. It's really quirky. But yeah, it was never an awards darling. I think it's a show that, despite being wildly creative and inventive, came out as the like hour-long streaming comedy was starting to become the dominating force in like Emmy award categories. Mm-hmm. Like, you start seeing the things that like Amazon's putting out with like Maisel and things around this time. And I think Good Place is just this really lovely little show. Yeah, like, you know, Fleabag season 1 and 2, but it's like it kind of got swept under the rug by some of these like big major studio players.
Yeah, super under the radar, not appreciated for what it should have been. It's very much like Ballers in that sense.
Yeah. It also did win, I don't know if Ballers won this award, but it won Outstanding Achievement in Comedy in 2018 from the Television Critics Association. So, you know, they have...
Over Ballers.
They had that in common. Other than that...
Rock, always an award snub from The Rock.
We talked a little bit about how you can find this on Netflix and Apple TV. There is also a Blu-ray that you can purchase that has all 53 episodes on it. But that's really the legacy of the show. This show ended not that long ago, right? It's fairly young in its ending, and I feel like we'll find out more about it as more time goes by.
Did it end because of the pandemic, or did it end because
it was because
like
Michael Schur said NBC offered to give many seasons to as many seasons as Michael Schur wanted, but Michael Schur said he came in with a 4-season TV show that was ready to go. If you think about it, I don't think there was a season that had more than 13 episodes, which is just wild as a whole. In the place we are today, where most sitcoms have 22 to 24.
I mean, I think once you get into the extremely complex nature of like ethical quandaries and multiple universes, and like, you know, it really is. There is a finite amount of material that you can do before people will be like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, Harvard boy.
Well, you know what's really experiencing that right now is Rick and Morty. There's like a pretty sizable plateau of Rick and Morty like concepts and humor, where at the very beginning it was, we're gonna go into a lot of different sci-fi related theories, stuff that can go back as far as like Asimov or something like that. We're gonna explore a lot of those. We're gonna do it in a funny way. We're gonna do it in a crass way. And now you're getting into the point where it's like, okay, what are you going to tackle now? And
what are we
going to make
leading
this
up
a novel
to?
concept?
Yeah.
All right, before we get all the Rick and Morty boys in our DMs and comments, Rich, let's play Game of the Week.
Yeah, Rich's Game of the Week.
Holy fork and shirt balls. All right, so as you guys know, it's a scene that we have referenced several times, but it is a explanation of Ted Danson by Ted Danson showing what particular actions either get you points toward being in the good place or points toward taken away to lead toward the bad place. So here's a couple examples. Be commissioner of a professional football league. Parentheses American. That would get you. That's a negative points. Use the term bro code. Negative points. Root for the New York Yankees. Negative points. Here are some positives. Sing to a child. Remember your sister's birthday. And plant a baobab tree in Madagascar.
I saw that one too.
I don't know what a baobab tree is, but I assume it's important there. All right, so I am going to give you a couple of examples of things that are positives in the good place, or according that would get you points toward being in the good place. And I want you to find the one that was not written by Mike Schur and the Good Place team. It was written by yours truly.
Okay.
All right, so we have.
This is Rich's audition for the next Mike Schur show.
Yeah.
Mike, call me. You know how to reach me. All right, so I'm going to put this here in the chat too. All right, so we have scratch elbow, pet a lamb, order your food in a restaurant's native language, remain loyal to the Cleveland Browns, step carefully over flower bed, fix a broken tricycle for a child who is indifferent to tricycles.
So we're picking the one that
Pick
we
the one
think
that's fake.
is fake. There's so many. Rich, if you wrote the order your food in the restaurant's native language, A+ to you, because that is, I know you just came back from a vacation, but that is, I don't know if that rule also applies when you're on vacation if you order it in the native language.
Let's see. Scratching your elbow and petting the lamb both just feel good, but not like in a hedonistic way. So I like to imagine those get you points. We've already taken one dig at just Ohio in general, so I want to believe that remaining loyal to the Cleveland Browns would be a real one. I'm going to say stepping carefully over a flower bed is the fake Rich Inman one.
Very nice.
And for the means of diversity, I am going to say pet a lamb.
So it is neither of those. It is order your food in a restaurant.
Oh, Rich, I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you. That's
Oh, thank you so
amazing.
much.
Michael Schur, what are you doing? Call this man.
Michael Schur, give me your home address.
Yeah, no, Rich will be there in a little bit. He'll bring, he'll expertly order French food in a flawless French accent.
We'll talk baseball. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Honestly, okay, so I know we talk a little bit about, we've brought up a couple times the a show's connection to the 2005 World Series champion Chicago White Sox. Mike Schur, in addition to being, baseball blog legend Ken Tremendous, actually broadcasted a game with White Sox main broadcaster Jason Benetti over the pandemic, and it was absolutely delightful. His other guest was Bill Walton, which was a game before, and boy, that was incoherent. If you want to somehow be more confused, if you want to be confused about a game that you've played since you were 3 years old, watch anything that Bill Walton is broadcasting, because oh my god,
That's amazing.
Bill Walton also going to the good place.
Rich, thank you for your game of the week. I'm very proud of you. Let's finish off as the plane lands with our final two questions. I don't want to say, do you think this show could be made today? Because I think that this show
got canceled like 2 months ago.
Yeah, this show just ended recently. But do you think that if, let's say in 20 years, someone wanted to remake the show and use the pilot, do you think that we would see a version of the show, or do you think it's untouchable?
I don't think there's enough fodder there to do obviously people are going to absolutely love the characters, and that's kind of what a reboot is really based on. It's how much do people love the characters that those actors are associated with. I don't think there's any reason to do this, so probably they'll do it.
I assume there's like 3 spin-offs already in the works at Peacock, knowing how this stuff works nowadays. I do think it is a little of a time and a place. These sort of like good morals, like chipper, upbeat kind of shows do feel very like, I don't know, this is kind of like the last one in that ilk. But The second question, I know what it is, so I'm going to say it. Yes, I will absolutely keep watching. I'm probably going to go watch more soon. I was reminded how much I really enjoyed this show's early episodes.
Rich, what about you? Would you continue watching this?
Oh man, it's so rapid fire with the material in there. It really didn't even feel like 21 minutes when I was watching it. It was hard for me not to click on episode 2 just so I could stay completely focused on the pilot for this.
And what I'll say is, in 2016, we needed this show. We needed this show very badly. I think that this show deserves the respect that Michael Schur gave it, which is keep it to these 53 episodes. Don't remake it. NBC, president of NBC, whomever is listening that has any pull at NBC.
Don't you tell me what to do.
Don't remake this show. But I implore anyone who is looking for nice 20-minute and 30-second episodes to go ahead, sit down, and watch this show. I'll be continuing it for sure. With that said, as we have all given yeses, I would love to be able to tell folks where we can find both of you.
You can find me on all things social media at Maxwell Sing. You can also find original sketch comedy from myself and Rich over on TikTok at Dadwagon Comedy.
You can find me being loyal to the Cleveland Browns at Damn That's Rich on Instagram. And yeah, please give us a follow on over on the comedy page.
You can find me complaining about how many frogs are in a pilot or possibly in Cincinnati, Ohio. But you can also find me on social media at RunJeffRun on Instagram and Twitter. You can find the TV Pilots License on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Pilots License. If you have a question about the show or for our next episode, you can email us at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com or give us a call at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for our Instagram. We usually post previews of upcoming episodes and ask for questions, maybe ask for inspiration. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. And until then, remember, everything is fine, and we'll see you soon.
Jeff, you know what I think about your frog discourse?